Commander Zilax's head separated from his body 3 seconds after Emma Johnson said, "Hold my beer." And the damn thing was still talking, still screaming, floating exactly 1 meter above his neck, while every medical scanner in the station shrieked alerts that contradicted basic biology across 17 known species. "Impossible!" Chief Medical Officer Kaeldra's claws scraped across her datapad as she sprinted toward the diplomatic lounge, her entire team scrambling behind her. Krillian neural architecture requires continuous spinal connection. Complete consciousness separation is a medical impossibility. Station Security Chief R. Hill was already sealing the section, his 4 eyes cycling through spectrum analyses that showed absolutely nothing. No energy signatures, no weapons discharge, no biological agents, just a human bartender wiping down her counter with a cloth, humming something that sounded disturbingly cheerful while the most feared military commander in 3 sectors floated in 2 pieces, very much alive and very much screaming. "What?" Zilax's head rotated slowly, his eyes wild with terror. "What did you do to me?" Emma glanced up from the glass she was polishing, raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm just holding my beer, buddy. You're the one who said Krillians couldn't be killed." She took a sip from her drink, completely unconcerned. "Thought I'd test that theory." "Reattach me immediately." Zilax's body was still standing upright, arms gesturing frantically despite having no head to direct them. "This is an act of war. The Krillian Empire will what?" According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Emma set down her glass with a soft clink. "Declare war on the girl who serves drinks? Bold strategy." Kaeldra's scanner chirped again, and she stared at the readings like they'd personally offended her. "His neural activity is stable. Blood oxygen levels normal, cellular integrity holding, all brain functions operating at baseline efficiency." She looked up at the floating head, then at Emma, then back at her scanner. "This violates every principle of xenobiology I've studied for 40 years. Rahil moved closer, one hand on his plasma pistol, though he had no idea what he'd even shoot at. "Human, explain what weapon you used." "Now." "Weapon?" Emma laughed, the sound genuine and a little confused. "I didn't use a weapon. I literally just held my beer. You all saw it." "The security footage confirms this," R. Hill muttered, his translator struggling with his tone of absolute bafflement. She placed her beverage on the counter, said the phrase, "Hold my beer," and then, he gestured at the floating head, this occurred. "Someone reverse this." Zilax's voice had climbed 2 octaves. "I am a decorated commander. I have conquered 14 systems. I cannot be defeated by a bartender." Emma's expression cooled slightly. "See, that's your problem right there. You walked into my bar 20 minutes ago, executed your own subordinate to make some kind of point about Krillian superiority, called humans a weak, pathetic servant species, and then threatened to glass the colony on Titan if we didn't accept your territorial claims." She picked up another glass, started polishing it with slow, deliberate movements. "That's just bad manners, Commander. Real bad manners." The diplomatic lounge had been hosting the Galactic Peace Summit's informal reception when Zilax had decided to make his demonstration. 37 species representatives were still pressed against the far walls, watching with expressions ranging from horror to fascination. The junior Krillian officer Zilax had killed lay crumpled near the viewport. His life ended to prove a point about chain of command. Council Arbiter Vex Thul burst through the security cordon, his crystalline form refracting the station's lights into panic-inducing patterns. "What is the meaning of—" He stopped dead, all 6 of his sensory nodes focusing on the separated commander. "By the Founders, is that—" "Commander Zilax," Kaeldra confirmed, her medical training fighting against her own disbelief. "Separated at the C3 vertebral junction. 0 cellular damage, full consciousness maintained." No explanation. Vexthul's form rippled through several colors that his species reserved for existential crises. Human bartender, what have you done? Held my beer, Emma said for the third time, her patience clearly wearing thin. Seriously, is that phrase not universal? Everyone knows this one. We do not know this one. Vexthul's colors shifted to aggressive orange. We need immediate clarification on what technique you employed, what technology you possess, what biological modification allows you to… Okay, time out. Emma raised both hands. You guys are way overthinking this. It's just an Earth thing, you know? When someone says, hold my beer, it means they're about to do something impressive. Or stupid, usually both. She gestured at Zilax's floating head. In this case, I'd say mission accomplished on the impressive part. A Terran medical specialist had arrived with Kaeldra's team, and he was staring at Emma with the expression of a man watching his entire understanding of physics dissolve. Emma, that's just a figure of speech. It doesn't actually do anything. Doesn't it, though? Emma grinned at him. Remember last month when you said, watch this, before you fix that plasma conduit everyone swore was unfixable? The medic blinked. That was just, I got lucky with the… Or when teacher Patricia said, trust me, during those peace talks between the Viridians and the Zelnoth, and two species that had been at war for 6 centuries suddenly decided to try diplomacy. Vexthul's colors flickered rapidly. Are you suggesting that human verbal declarations have reality-altering properties? I'm suggesting, Emma said slowly, that when a human is confident enough to make a statement like that, the universe has a funny way of making it true. She looked directly at Zilax's floating head. You said Krillians couldn't be killed. I said hold my beer. Turns out we were both right. You're not dead, but you're definitely not in one piece either. This is insane. Kaeldra's claws clattered against her scanner. Probability doesn't work that way. Reality doesn't reorganize itself based on confident statements. Doesn't it? Emma pulled out her datapad, scrolled through something. Arbiter, you got access to Earth's historical records? Look up every major human achievement in the last 500 years. I'll wait. Vexthul's form dimmed as he accessed the database. His color slowly drained to a pale, frightened blue. The first faster-than-light travel achieved after a human engineer said, I got this. The cure for the Venusian plague discovered when a researcher said, what's the worst that could happen? The terraform of Mars succeeding after project leaders said, hold our beers in unison. His voice became a whisper. Every impossible achievement preceded by a casual human declaration of intent. Pattern recognition, Emma said with a smile. Humans didn't get to the top of Earth's food chain by being the strongest or fastest. We got there by being absolutely convinced we could do things that were obviously impossible, and then doing them anyway. Rahil's security team had completed full scans of the room. Every weapon detector showed negative. Every biological threat sensor registered safe. The only anomaly in the entire lounge was a human bartender with a blood alcohol content of approximately 0.02%, barely enough to be noticeable, and a Krillian commander whose consciousness had been separated from his body through means that violated every known law of science. Please! Zilax's composure had completely shattered. Tears, actual tears, were forming in his ocular membranes. Please, I apologize. I was wrong. Humans are not weak, not pathetic, not servants. You are terrifying apex predators who bend reality with your words, and I am very, very sorry for everything I said. Emma studied him for a long moment, took another sip of her beer. You kill one of your own people to prove a point, and now you want mercy because you're scared. Yes, no, Zilax's head bobbed frantically in the air. That was wrong. I was demonstrating outdated Krillian military doctrine that I now realize is fundamentally flawed. I formally request, no, I beg, for restoration and the opportunity to make amends. Kaeldra stepped forward. Human Emma, can you reverse this condition? Probably, Emma shrugged. I didn't really plan this out, just kind of felt right in the moment, you know. You didn't plan it? Vexthul's colors exploded into a rainbow of panic. You altered the fundamental nature of biological reality on impulse? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds irresponsible. Emma grinned. But yeah, basically. A new presence entered the room. Ambassador Lirana of the Galactic Council's Supreme Directorate, flanked by an honor guard of the most elite species in known space. She took one look at the situation and her bioluminescent patterns flickered through what her species used for profanity. "Someone explain," she said flatly, "why I just diverted from critical treaty negotiations because a human bartender apparently decapitated a Krillian commander without weapons, without violence, and without killing him." Vexthul began to explain, his colors shifting through the entire spectrum as he tried to find words for the impossible. Lirana's bioluminescence grew steadily brighter, which in her species indicated either extreme anger or extreme fear. Possibly both. "So what you're telling me," she said slowly, "is that humans can restructure reality by making confident statements." "Not all statements," Emma corrected, "just the really good ones. Hold my beer is top tier. Watch this is solid. I got this works pretty well. Trust me is situational but effective. And never, ever doubt a human who says, 'How hard could it be?'" Lirana's patterns dimmed to almost invisible. "We've been sharing the galaxy with a species that weaponizes confidence itself. We prefer to think of it as aggressive optimism," Emma said cheerfully. "Can you restore him?" Lirana gestured at Zilax, who had gone very quiet, his eyes darting between the humans like they were natural disasters that might strike at any moment. Emma tilted her head, considering. "I mean, I could, but shouldn't there be, consequences? He did murder that guy." She pointed at the dead Krillian officer. "Rehabilitation protocols," Lirana began. "He needs to apologize," Emma interrupted. "Not to me. To everyone here, publicly, with actual remorse. And he needs to withdraw those territorial claims because Titan's colony has 16,000 people who really don't want to be glassed." Zilax's head nodded so frantically it started spinning slightly. "Yes, absolutely. I formally withdraw all Krillian claims to the Titan region. I apologize unreservedly to all species present, especially humans, for my barbaric display and my ignorant statements. I recognize that my actions were the result of cultural supremacy that has no place in modern galactic society. Okay, Emma waved her hand. "You can stop before you hurt yourself." "Well, hurt yourself more." She walked around the bar, approached the floating head and standing body. "This is gonna feel weird." "Weirder than this?" Zilax asked weakly. Emma placed one hand on top of his head, one hand on his body's shoulder. She closed her eyes for a moment, and everyone in the room held their breath, or equivalent respiratory pause for their species. "There we go," Emma said, and simply stepped back. Zilax's head settled onto his shoulders with a soft sound that shouldn't have been possible. The reattachment was instant and perfect. No scarring, no cellular damage, not even a seam. Medical scanners showed complete biological integration, as if the separation had never occurred. The commander's hands flew to his neck, feeling the smooth scales, the unbroken line of his spine. I'm whole again." "Yup," Emma walked back to her bar. "Try not to be a genocidal jerk in the future, yeah?" Zilax stared at her, then at his hands, then at the assembled diplomatic corps. He dropped to one knee, a Krillian gesture of ultimate submission rarely seen outside of ancient historical texts. The Krillian Empire will not forget this mercy. Or this lesson. The room erupted into chaos. Medical teams swarmed Zilax, scanning everything. Diplomatic aides frantically transmitted reports to their homeworlds. Security forces tried to figure out what protocols applied to reality warping through confident speech. And through it all, Emma just went back to polishing glasses, humming her little tune. Vexthul approached the bar slowly, his colors carefully neutral. "Human Emma, The Council will need to establish new protocols regarding human declarative statements. Sure, makes sense. Emma lined up clean glasses on the shelf. Probably smart to take us seriously when we say stuff like, "Hold my beer." We will be taking everything humans say seriously from this point forward, Vexthul said with the weight of someone rewriting galactic law in real time. The phrase, "hold my beer," is now classified as a probability alteration event. All human casual declarations are to be treated as potential reality restructuring. That seems like overkill, but you do you. Emma noticed a customer hesitantly approaching the bar, a Viridian who'd been pressed against the wall for the last 20 minutes. "What can I get you?" "Is it safe?" the Viridian whispered. Emma laughed. "Buddy, I'm off the clock now. Besides, I only do the reality-bending thing when people really deserve it." "The dead officer deserved it," Lirana said quietly, approaching the bar. "Zilax executed him for questioning orders during the previous campaign. Young soldier, good record, just asked if there was a diplomatic alternative before engaging." Emma's expression hardened for just a moment. "Yeah, I know. I heard the speech Zilax gave while he was doing it. All about Krillian's strength and how questioning was weakness." She met Lirana's bioluminescent gaze. "That's why I held my beer." "You altered reality to protect others," Lirana observed. "I altered reality to make a point," Emma corrected. "But sure, protecting others is a nice bonus. Look, I'm just a bartender. I serve drinks. I listen to problems, and occasionally I remind genocidal military commanders that they're not as invincible as they think. It's all part of the job." Kaeldra was still running scans, her medical team surrounding Zilax like he was the most fascinating specimen in the galaxy, which, to be fair, he probably was. No trace of the separation remains. Complete biological integrity. It's as if the entire incident never happened, except for the recorded footage and the trauma responses in his neural pathways. "Oh, it happened," Zilax said, his voice hollow. "I will never forget what it felt like to be aware, conscious, separated from my own body, completely at the mercy of a being whose capabilities I cannot begin to comprehend." He looked at Emma. "Is this how other species feel about Krillians? This helplessness?" "Sometimes," Emma said, not unkindly. "Power's a hell of a drug, Commander. Makes you forget what it's like to be on the other side of it." Over the next hour, the diplomatic lounge transformed into an impromptu crisis center. Council representatives established new contact protocols. Military advisors rewrote threat assessment procedures. Xenosociology experts began emergency analysis of human cultural phrases and their apparent reality-affecting properties. A human researcher named Dr. Michael Chen arrived from the science deck, looking both excited and terrified. "Emma, I've been running probability analyses on recorded human achievements. The correlation is undeniable. When humans make confident declarative statements, local probability fields shift in our favor." "Huh," Emma said, pouring him a drink without being asked. "That explains a lot about human history, actually." "It explains everything about human history." Chen was practically vibrating with excitement. Every one small step for man moment, every we choose to go to the moon declaration, every yes we can campaign, they weren't just inspiring rhetoric, they were literally altering the probability of success. "Does it work for everyone?" Lirana asked sharply. "Seems to be primarily a human trait." Chen scrolled through data. "Something about the specific combination of irrational confidence, social bonding through shared language, and our species' historical tendency to attempt the obviously impossible. When we collectively believe something can be done and state it with enough conviction, reality appears to accommodate us." Vexthul's colors had settled into a resigned purple. "This will require complete revision of human integration protocols. Every human declaration must be monitored, assessed, and potentially facilitated rather than dismissed." "Please don't make it weird," Emma said. "We're not trying to bend reality on purpose. It just kinda happens when we get confident about stuff." "That," Lirana said dryly, "is exactly what makes it terrifying. The Viridian customer who'd approached earlier finally worked up courage to order. Could I get a Centauri sunset? If it's not too much trouble, please." Emma grinned. "Sure thing, see? Normal bar transaction, no reality warping required." She mixed the drink with practiced ease, slid it across the counter. "On the house. You've had a stressful day." Zilax was being escorted out by medical teams, still looking shell-shocked. He paused at the door, turned back to Emma. "I have fought in 73 campaigns, conquered 14 worlds, commanded fleets that made star systems tremble, and I have never been as utterly defeated as I was today by a bartender holding her beer." "Good," Emma said simply. "Maybe you'll think twice before threatening to glass colonies full of innocent people." "I will think twice before threatening anything human-adjacent ever again," Zilax replied with absolute sincerity. "The Krillian Empire will propose a formal treaty of cooperation with Earth. I will personally advocate for human-inclusive policies throughout the military, and I will ensure that what happened here today is taught in every command school we operate." "What, the part where you got your head separated?" "The part where I learned that true power isn't the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to choose mercy." He bowed deeply, another gesture Krillians rarely performed. "Thank you for the lesson, bartender Emma." After he left, Chen leaned on the bar. "You know this is going to change everything, right? The whole galaxy just watched a human casually demonstrate reality manipulation through confident speech." Emma shrugged. "Humans have been doing impossible stuff since we figured out fire was a thing we could make instead of just running from. This is just the first time it's been properly documented." She noticed the diplomatic corps gathering around Lirana and Vex Thul, clearly preparing for emergency sessions. "Besides, it's not like we're going around warping reality for fun. It only works when we really mean it." "That's the problem," Chen said quietly. "You guys always really mean it." A junior diplomat rushed over, a young Zelnoth who Emma recognized from previous summit events. "Excuse me, but the Council has requested your presence for testimony about today's incident." "Can it wait?" Emma asked. "I've got 6 more hours on my shift, and I promised the night crew I'd prep the specialty cocktails before they arrive." The diplomat's translator made several confused noises trying to process that response. You just altered the nature of biological reality and you're concerned about cocktail preparation?" "Well, yeah. Marcus is working tonight and he always forgets to muddle the mint properly. Someone's got to do it." Lirana approached, her bioluminescence settling into an almost amused pattern. "Let her work. We have enough footage and testimony to analyze for months. The human has made her point quite effectively." "Speaking of which," Emma said, "what happens with the officer Zilax killed? Does his family get notified or—" Lirana's light dimmed respectfully. "Already in progress. The Council will ensure appropriate honors and reparations. His name was Karel. He was 27 standard years old, had a mate and 2 offspring." Emma's jaw tightened. "Then make sure Zilax's amends include taking care of that family, financially, politically, whatever they need." "It will be part of the treaty negotiations," Lirana assured her. "Your intervention, while unorthodox, may have prevented escalation to full war. Karel's death will not be meaningless." "It shouldn't have happened at all," Emma muttered, but nodded acceptance. The crowd in the lounge slowly dispersed over the next hour. Medical teams left with enough data to publish 1,000 papers. Diplomats returned to their emergency sessions. Security forces updated their protocols, adding human verbal declarations to the list of potential reality-altering phenomena alongside quantum weapons and psionic attacks. Emma just kept working. She served drinks, wiped down tables, listened to shell-shocked diplomats process what they'd witnessed. A Terran ambassador stopped by, looking exhausted. "Emma, you've created a diplomatic incident that will be studied for generations." "Cool. I also created this new drink recipe. Want to try it?" The ambassador stared at her, then started laughing. the slightly hysterical laughter of someone whose entire worldview had shifted. Sure, why not? At this point, I'll drink anything. Emma mixed something colorful and handed it over. It's called a reality check. Seemed appropriate. Oh my God, the ambassador said after the first sip. This is actually really good. Told you, I'm good at my job. Emma paused. Both of them, apparently. As night cycle began on the station, artificial but still comforting in its familiarity, Emma finally closed down the bar. She'd served drinks to 17 species, listened to 8 different theories about human probability manipulation, and turned down 4 job offers from military organizations who wanted to study her capabilities. Marcus arrived for night shift, took one look at her expression, and asked, "Rough day?" "You could say that." Emma grabbed her coat. "There's a thing in the news feeds about it. I'll let you read the summary." "Another Tuesday in paradise?" Marcus grinned. "You have no idea." Emma walked through the station corridors, past viewports showing stars and distant nebulae. Somewhere out there, the Krillian Empire was having emergency sessions about humans. The Galactic Council was rewriting first contact protocols. Military academies were developing entirely new threat assessment categories. And Emma Johnson, bartender, was going home to her quarters to feed her cat and watch trashy Earth sitcoms before her next shift. Her comm unit buzzed, a message from Chen. "Just forwarded you the preliminary analysis. You're now classified as a Class 7 probability manipulator. Congrats?" She typed back, "Does it come with a raise?" Chen, asking the real questions. "Probably not, though." Emma, "Then I'll just stick with bartending." In her quarters, her cat, a orange tabby named Schrödinger because Emma appreciated irony, meowed loudly about the delayed dinner. She fed him, changed into comfortable clothes, and settled onto her couch with a drink that didn't involve reality warping. Her data feed showed headlines propagating across human networks. "Bartender defeats alien commander with phrase. Human verbal declarations classified as weapons. Hold my beer. Now galactic incident." Emma smiled, took a sip of her drink, and pulled up her favorite comedy show. Somewhere in the galaxy, people were panicking about human capabilities. Somewhere, committees were forming to study probability manipulation. Somewhere, Zilax was probably still having nightmares about consciousness without body. But here, in this moment, Emma was just tired from a long shift and ready to decompress with her cat and her shows. Her comm buzzed again. "Vexathul, final question for the record. Do you regret today's actions?" Emma considered, typed carefully. "I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it." Vexathul, "Understood. For what it's worth, you may have saved millions of lives. Zilax was planning a major offensive. Your demonstration convinced him to reconsider not just the battle, but the entire war doctrine." Emma, "Then I guess it was a good beer to hold." She set down the comm and turned up the volume on her show. Schrödinger jumped onto her lap, purring like a small engine. Outside her viewport, the galaxy continued spinning, now aware that humans could reshape probability through sheer confident assertion. And in a small apartment on a diplomatic station, Emma Johnson finished her drink, scratched her cat's ears, and laughed at jokes that had nothing to do with reality manipulation or galactic politics. Just another Tuesday, she thought, and meant it. Because for humans, making the impossible possible was just part of who they were. They'd been saying, "Hold my beer," in various forms for thousands of years, before attempting to fly, to reach space, to cure diseases, to make peace, to survive against impossible odds. The galaxy was just now learning what Earth had always known. Never bet against a human who's confident enough to make a declarative statement. Especially if that statement is, "Hold my beer."